Hello friends, welcome to the channel, and today's biochemistry video is about HMP shunt, an important pathway which is observed in carbohydrate metabolism. And this pathway, like its name HMP, that is hexomonophosphate shunt, is quite complicated whenever we see it in books. But I am trying to make it in a simplified form to make you understand. So I hope this video gets helpful to you. So let's start with what is this HMP shunt and where it is observed. So HMP shunt, whatever enzymes it requires, so those are present in cytosol. So this pathway takes place in cytosol. And second thing, that which tissues or which body organs are involved in that. So this pathway gives us two important outcomes, that is, it gives us NADPH, and secondly it gives us some pentose sugar. So these are the two outcomes or these two products of this HMP shunt. And the pentose sugar is required by nucleic acids, by nucleotides, while NADPH it is required by RBCs to maintain the cell integrity. And if NADPH is not there, there is going to be lysis of those RBCs and those RBCs will be destructed. In addition to that, NADPH is also required by tissues for generation of fatty acids, steroids. So all those tissues like liver as well as adrenal glands, adipose tissue, so they all require NADPH. So this HMP shunt is observed in all such tissues. Now let's see this shunt means, which is an alternative arrangement. So how these HMP shunts start. So before going to HMP shunt, let's have a quick look on glycolysis. So what is glycolysis? It is a 10-step process in which glucose in the presence of hexokinase gets converted into glucose 6-phosphate, and through those 10-step process it gets converted into pyruvate. This pyruvate further enters into Krebs cycle, which is a cyclic pathway, and during this process it produces some ATPs as well as it releases some NADPH. NADH. In addition to that, it also consumes some ATPs when this glycolysis occurs. So it means that in glycolysis some ATPs are consumed while some ATPs are released. While if we will say HMP shunt, there is no involvement of ATPs, it doesn't require any ATP during the process, and secondly it even doesn't generate any ATP. So this is the one thing about HMP shunt. Now let's see what are the various steps involved in that. So as you could see here, I have drawn these 4 horizontal boxes. So that is the phase 1, that is phase 1 of this HMP shunt, while this zigzag pattern which you could see here, these 3 steps, that is the phase 2. So the first one is oxidative phase, in which all those chemical modifications will be observed, while the phase 2, that is non-oxidative phase. In this phase we will see only some kind of rearrangement. There is no oxidation or there are no particular chemical reactions going to take place. There is going to be simple rearrangement of carbon fragments, and it is going to give us the outcome of various sugars, while the oxidative phase is going to give us the NADPH. So this is how we could keep it in mind. Now let's see the pathway now, the various steps. First we will see the oxidative 3 steps. So it is going to start with glucose. Glucose will get converted to glucose 6-phosphate in the presence of hexokinase. Now the enzyme which is responsible to initiate HMP shunt, that enzyme is very important, and the name of this enzyme is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. And this enzyme requires some magnesium ions to start up or to get activated, and in addition to that it is dependent on NADP. This enzyme is dependent on NADP, and it leads to formation of some NADPH during the process. When this glucose 6-phosphate reacts in the presence of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme, it leads to formation of 6-phosphogluconolactone, which is a 6-carbon moiety. The previous 2 are also 6 carbon compounds. Okay. Now this 6-phosphogluconolactone, it further gets hydrolyzed in the presence of some hydrolase enzyme to produce phosphogluconate. So in the presence of hydrolase, that is phosphogluconohydrolase, it leads to formation of phosphogluconate. Now this phosphogluconate is again a 6-carbon moiety. It further in the presence of some dehydrogenase enzyme, it leads to formation of ribulose 5-phosphate. Now ribulose, it is a 5-carbon sugar, so it is 5-carbon. It means we have reduced or we have loosed 1 carbon, and generally what happens, there is this removal is in the form of carbon dioxide, so there is some decarboxylation involved, and the enzyme, as I told you, involved in this process is phosphogluconodehydrogenase. So here there is involvement of some dehydrogenase enzyme, and this enzyme is not as important as the first one, G6PD. It is not having any much importance as compared to this, because if G6PD is absent, if in particular to this G6PD, in the absence of this enzyme, there used to be absence of NADPH, and that leads to destruction of RBCs, and that leads to hemolytic anemia. So it is a very complicated condition. So this dehydrogenase is having more specificity, or it is quite important to be understood. Well, this dehydrogenase is not that important. It is not going to cause any such complications. And again, this dehydrogenase is dependent on NADP, and it leads to formation of 1 more molecule of NADPH. So these are the 3 oxidative phases. Now the next part, phase 2, that is non-oxidative. So let's go towards it. So here we have got the first sugar of this hexose monophosphate chain. Now let's see what different sugars are produced in this pathway. So this ribulose 5-phosphate, now in the presence of some enzyme which are going to just cause interconversion of the molecules, atoms which are present in it. And in the presence of enzyme ribulose 5-phosphate epimerase, presence of epimerase enzyme, it leads to formation of xylulose 5-phosphate, while in the presence of isomerase enzyme, that is ribose 5-phosphate isomerase enzyme, it is going to form ribose 5-phosphate. Now this ribose 5-phosphate, it is important in it is an important pentose sugar for formation of nucleic acids as well as nucleotides, so it is going to be helpful for that process. So now these both sugars are 5-carbon containing sugars. We have got 2 5-carbon containing sugars. Now the actual part, that is the non-oxidative rearrangement, is going to start. So what happens in the presence of thymine phosphopyruvate TPP, there used to be interconversion of the carbon fragments. The xylulose 5-phosphate is going to give 2 of its carbon fragment to ribose 5-phosphate, and it will lead to formation of, when there will be 5 plus 2, that is 7, that is pseudoheptulose 7-phosphate. So we will get this 7-carbon sugar. While the remaining one, now how much are left? 2 are given, so 3 are left. So it is going to give us glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, the 3-carbon containing moiety. Now this the enzyme, sorry, I forgot. So this TPP, thymine pyrophosphate, it is going to act as a cofactor for the enzyme transketolase. It's going to be enzyme transketolase. So in the presence of transketolase, we are going to get this 2 product. Now in the last step, what happens? This pseudoheptulose, which is having 7-carbon structure, so it is going to give 3 of its carbon to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, and it will lead to formation of fructose 6-phosphate, because it has gained 3 carbon, so it will become a 6-carbon moiety. And the enzyme which helps here is transaldolase. while the remaining one, the moiety pseudoheptulose, it is having now the remaining 4 carbon that will lead to formation of erythrose 4-phosphate. So that is the 4 carbon sugar. So in this way we are going to get these fructose, erythrose, pseudoheptulose, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, ribose 5-phosphate and xylulose 5-phosphate. And one more point, one more step is still remaining here. It is not still ended. This xylulose 5-phosphate and erythrose 5-phosphate, they do interchange the carbon fragments, and this xylulose 5-phosphate gives some of its carbon, 3 carbons to erythrose, so it becomes 4 plus 2, 6, and it leads to formation of fructose 6-phosphate and the remaining moiety, that is now glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, the 3 carbon part. So we get again 1 glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate here. And this reaction is also catalyzed by the same enzyme transketolase with the help of this cofactor TPP, transketolase. So in this way there is complete this non-oxidative and oxidative phase occurs, and these ribose sugar that is utilized, as I told you, by the nucleic acid or nucleotides. While what happens with the other sugars, so the other components which are produced here, so the fructose or glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate which are produced here, they go back into the glycolysis, they act as intermediates in the glycolysis pathway, as well as they are utilized in the gluconeogenesis pathway to produce glucose moieties. So this is how this HMP shunt is a multifunctional pathway. It not only produces NADPH and pentose sugar, but also helps to produce some substrates which are going to be helpful in glycolysis pathway. So this is about HMP shunt, an important shunting pathway or an alternative pathway to glycolysis or for the metabolism of glucose. I hope the video is helpful to you and it helps you in understanding the pathway. Thank you so much for watching.